Equals September 1939. The grey clouds over London seem heavier than ever. News of Germany's invasion of Poland sweeps through the corridors of Buckingham Palace like a cold wind. In a quiet chamber, King George VI listens intently to his Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain. The words, "We are at war with Germany," hang in the air, stark and immovable. The king, known to those close to him simply as Bertie, feels the weight of empire pressing down. Across continents, the British Commonwealth, Canada, Australia, India, South Africa, await their monarch's voice. Yet he knows his greatest battle is not fought with armies, but with words. When he tries to speak, his breath catches. Decades of hesitation and therapy echo in his memory. Outside the palace gates, drenched Londoners huddle around radios, seeking hope. The world stands still as a reluctant king prepares to lead a nation of millions into the storm.
Equals. The autumn of 1939 unfolds like a long night. Every morning the king sits in his study, surrounded by telegrams of war, dispatches from France, and pleas from across the empire. He reads each one, envisioning sons departing for distant fronts. Lionel Logue, his trusted speech therapist, paces the room, gentle and steadfast. "Your Majesty," he says softly, "a nation draws courage from its leader's voice, not his perfection." The king smiles faintly, burdened but determined. Practice begins. Each sentence stumbles, halts, restarts. To our brave men overseas," he whispers. The ticking clock amplifies every pause, yet Logue refuses despair. He urges rhythm, breath, and heart. Outside, the wail of air raid sirens tests the nerves of a weary city. George knows the microphones will soon demand not only his words, but his soul. A monarch must sound certain, even as his world trembles.
Equals. Deep in the palace, a room has been prepared. Walls lined with soundproof fabric. A BBC microphone standing silent in expectation. The king's reflection stares back from a polished mirror. Himself, but also every monarch before him. Logue stands nearby, calm as still water. He reminds the king of rhythm, steady breathing, trust. "Forget the microphone," he murmurs. "Speak to your people, man to man." George closes his eyes, recalling his childhood torment, the taunts from school, the terror of speaking before strangers. Yet war allows no retreat into silence. At this moment, words are bullets of morale, voice the very heartbeat of courage. He rehearses the opening lines again and again, trembling yet resolute. In the background, church bells toll softly, part of a nation holding its breath. The king must transform fear into faith, his own voice into England's beacon.
Equals December 1939. The frost-laced streets of London glow beneath wartime blackout curtains. Radios hum quietly in family parlors across the empire. From London flats to farms in New Zealand, from outposts in India to ship decks at sea. They await the King's Christmas address, the first since Britain went to war. The BBC engineers prepare equipment at Sandringham, cables laid, microphones polished. The monarch paces nearby, his breathing shallow but steady. His wife, Queen Elizabeth, offers a steadying hand. "They believe in you," she whispers, "as do I." Each heartbeat syncs with the ticking of the clock toward Christmas Day. Across continents, soldiers clutch their helmets, families clasp hands, and children huddle around radio dials. For one moment, millions will listen to a single voice of hope, echoing through the static mist of war.
Equals. Far from royal halls, the war's grim sound grows louder. British Expeditionary Force soldiers dig trenches in France, unaware that months later they will retreat at Dunkirk. Letters from the front arrive at Buckingham Palace, brief words of loyalty and fear. The king reads every one. He feels their longing for home, their belief in his leadership. In that moment, his burden becomes purpose. He writes notes for his upcoming speech, each phrase measured like a soldier's march. The air smells faintly of ink and cold winter. Outside, newsboys shout of Nazi advances. The radio is both weapon and shield now, words as vital as bullets. The king must rise, not in battle, but in voice. His speech must become armor for the waiting millions. He understands now. He does not merely speak to them, he speaks for them.
Equals the eve of Christmas 1939. The Sandringham estate lies cloaked in frost, steam curling from chimneys under a dark sky. Inside, Lionel Logue sits at the piano, softly pressing keys to steady the king's rhythm. The monarch stands before the microphone, his notes trembling in hand. He begins again, pausing sometimes, fighting the familiar battle in his throat. But this time, his struggle feels different. Beyond the static hum, beyond the fear, he senses the strength of a nation praying for him to succeed. Slowly, calmly, from the heart, Logue reminds. The king nods. His voice flows smoother than ever before, determination binding every syllable. When he finishes, silence fills the room. Logue smiles. "You've done it, Bertie." For the first time that winter, the king believes he might actually triumph, not over another man, but over his own doubt.
Morning breaks cold and clear. Church bells strike across Britain, echoing through fog and smoke. Inside the small room set for the broadcast, BBC technicians whisper final adjustments. The king stands poised, every inch of him aware that millions are listening. The red light flicks on. Silence, then his voice, measured, earnest, human. It wavers for a moment, then grows stronger, steady, resolute. The words carry beyond the palace walls, across oceans, through battlefields and barracks. Children stop to listen. Soldiers straighten. Mothers wipe their eyes. The king's voice does not merely speak, it binds an empire together. In that fragile, magnificent moment, the stammering monarch becomes a symbol of courage. England's heartbeat steadies. Its king has spoken.
As the king's words traverse radio waves, they reach every corner of the empire. In Bombay, soldiers gathered in mess halls listen in reverent silence. In Sydney, families huddled around glowing radios. In Canada, snow drifts past icy windows as listeners nod with pride. Even aboard ships in the North Sea, sailors pause, hearing their sovereign's calm, reassuring tone. Messages begin arriving within hours, telegrams of gratitude, tears, and triumph. The king's speech has done what fleets and armies could not. It united hearts across oceans. At Sandringham, Logue quietly exits the room, leaving the monarch alone with his thoughts. Outside, the Christmas bells ring again, not of peace yet, but of endurance. The voice that once faltered now shines across the world's darkest night.
The broadcast ends. A hush falls over the studio. For a moment, the king simply stands there, breathing deeply, disbelief mixing with quiet pride. Queen Elizabeth approaches, her face radiant with emotion. "You were magnificent," she whispers. Outside, snow begins to fall against the windows of Sandringham. Lionel Logue returns, his expression gentle yet victorious.
"You gave them hope, Bertie," he says softly. The king nods, humbled, his gaze distant. Though the war rages on and the road ahead is long, something irrevocable has changed. Within the man who once feared the sound of his own voice now beats the courage of a nation. His victory is not marked by medals, but by words that carried strength when guns could not.
Equals years will pass. The war will drag Britain through fire and ruin. Yet that Christmas night remains a turning point. The king's speech becomes legend, a testament to the power of resolve. When his voice once again fills the airwaves in later years, during the Blitz on VE Day, it carries the memory of that first triumph, when courage conquered fear. Future generations will recall the monarch who found strength not in conquest, but in compassion. Standing before history's gaze, King George VI proved that leadership is not the absence of weakness, but the mastery of it. And so, through static and time, his words continue to echo, steady, humble, and unbroken.